UFC 314, just over 24 hours away. The weigh-ins are complete. The main card is stacked and ready to go. Arguably the best pay-per-view we've had so far of the year, in my opinion, the best one top to bottom, and it's not even close. I wish we got more of these more often. But without further ado, we're going to get into the main card, go through some predictions, some betting odds, and we're going to make some picks. Let's go and take a look at the card now. Starting off with the first fight of the pay-per-view, we got Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. Nikita Krylov, the slight favorite at minus 180. Dominic Reyes at plus 150. Reyes coming off of some very impressive wins, and Krylov continues to be outstanding. 30-9, very, very underrated. One of the high and incredibly high finishing rate as well. We can see, looking at it, 30-9 versus 14-4. Number 8 versus number 11, I believe, is what the numbers were. Win by, you can see Dominic Reyes, a lot of TKOs. Krylov, 40% TKO, 53% by sub. So more often than not, the job gets done. Average fight time, basically 7 minutes to 8 minutes. Significant strikes, relatively similar. A little bit more, about one and some change more for Dominic Reyes. Same with absorb per minute. He does get hit just a little bit more. Grappling, it's pretty much all Nikita Krylov. Reyes with a very good 82% takedown defense. Doesn't shoot a whole lot and doesn't really go for a whole lot. As you saw with the odds, a slight favorite for Nikita Krylov. For the picks, I'm going to stick with Krylov. He is very, very, very good. I love the comeback that Reyes is on right now. I think he's very live in this fight. I think there's a very good chance he could get the win. You know, I've talked myself into it. We're going to go with an upset out of the gate. We're going to say Dominic Reyes finds a way to keep the distance, land some good shots, avoid Krylov's absolute chaos. We know he's going to start the fight absolutely chaotic. That's what he tends to do. Jumping kicks, spinning stuff, flying everything. He's an outstanding fighter, but we're going to take Reyes with a slight upset. I think he's going to be on his P's and Q's defensively. I think he's going to control the distance, land some good shots, utilize his boxing and his footwork, and we're going to find him to get the W. For bets, I think it's going to be one that might go the distance or later into the fight. So we're going to go over 1.5 rounds. So we're definitely going to see a second round that's minus 154 odds. So we're going to go minus 154 over 1.5 rounds for our bet, and we're going to take Dominic Reyes to win. Next up, the people's main event, depending on which people you are talking to. Bryce Mitchell taking on Gene Silva. Good versus evil, depending on who you talk to as well. Stole the show at the press conference. Gene Silva did miss weight. I believe it was by 1 pound. He just missed it. I do not love that. I hate seeing fighters miss weight in such a high volume matchup like this. 17-3 versus 15-2. Bryce ranked number 13. Silva just on the cusp of the top 15. Take a look at their measurables. 5'10", 5'7". Reach advantage for Bryce, 70-69. Leg reach, 40 to 36.5. Length favors Bryce, although Gene Silva a much more crisp stand-up guy, a little more chaotic stand-up as well. Bryce a much stronger grappler. We can see he wins by 53% submission, 41% decision. Average fight time about 11 minutes. Gene Silva, KO artist, 80% of the time knockouts, about 8-15 with almost 1.5 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Significant strikes, same idea, 59% for Bryce, but he's only about 2.3 per minute, where Gene Silva, 5.5, just absolute chaos defensively, relatively similar. Absorb per minute, Gene has a much higher rate. Granted, Bryce has a lot more grappling in his fight, so there's less absorb per minute there. Grappling, takedown defense is very favorable for Gene Silva here. Takedown average, you know Bryce is going to go in there and go after it. And then, of course, the odds. I don't love the odds here. Minus 278 for Gene Silva, plus 225 for Bryce. Bryce should be arguably the favorite here. He's higher ranked. He has the perfect skill set to go after someone like Gene Silva. I'm very much leaning towards taking him here, and I think that's a very good bet. However, I will say there is a stat. I think it's like 2 out of every 3 fighters that miss weight, the guy who missed weight ends up winning. I know it's only a pound. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but just for that alone, I'm going to give the edge to Gene Silva. I don't love the minus 278. You're not getting a great return if you pick him. So since I'm picking him, what we're going to do is we're going to scroll into the bets, and we're going to say the fight will not go the distance. That is minus 235, so not great odds, but a little bit better. I think either Bryce is going to wear him down and tap him out second, early third round, or Gene's going to catch him first, early part of the second round with some of his chaos. I think this fight's not going the distance. I have a hard time seeing it go in distance. I think Bryce will either wear him down and tap him out, or Gene Silva will catch him with something. But we're going to go with Gene Silva to win, but the fight to go over. Sorry, the fight to not go the distance. Next up, a hidden fight on the card, a sleeper fight. We got Yair Rodriguez taking on newcomer Patricio Pitbull. 16-5 versus 36-7. Pitbull, known as one of the best fighters outside of the UFC, multiple-time champion across multiple divisions, Bellator, so on and so forth. Yair with a strong height advantage, 5'11 to 5'6", reach 71 to 67, 41.5 leg to 37. Yair's going to have the distance. He's going to have the range. He has the footwork. It's going to be hard to reach him. We know how he kind of fights a lot of the karate style, a lot of the pop, pop, pop on the distance, the spinning kicks and flying knees from heck. Pitbull's going to have to, he's going to have to live up to the name. He's going to have to be a Pitbull and charge forward. We tell you their winning percentages. Yair, relatively balanced, 40, 25, 35, 13 minutes for average fight time. So he is in the cage a lot. He does have the flashy knockdowns and knockouts, but in between those, there is a lot of time spent. It's almost Stephen Wonderboy Thompson-esque. Pitbull, about as dead as you can get. Very long average fight time. He's been in so many 5-round fights. So we're going to go right by this. Significant strikes, obviously, Yair, the advantage. High volume, very high volume, clean distance, legs, kicks, everything. Grappling, takedown defense, incredible for Pitbull. Not that Yair is going to shoot it by any means. And then for the odds, it's not showing a whole lot of odds here, but when I look on other places, such as DraftKings, they do have Yair Rodriguez as a minus 205 favorite and Patricio Pitbull at plus 170. I am going to take Yair to win this one as well. I know kind of a chalk boring pick there. There's something about the UFC debut, and I don't know. Yair doesn't really get caught and knocked out. He doesn't get caught clean, which is what I think Pitbull would have to do. I don't think he's necessarily the grappler to like what we've seen guys do to him, like Frankie Edgar, so on and so forth. So we're going to take Yair Rodriguez to cruise to a decision, so which means I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds. I think it's going to go the distance minus 166. I don't think he's taking out Pitbull, but I don't think Pitbull's going to get a hold of him. So I do think this fight will go the distance. And then hopefully setting up a Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopes battle after that press conference. My goodness. But next up to the co-main event, Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett, number 7 versus just, I believe, number 12, just climbing into the top 10. 23-9 versus 22-3. We know the story with both of them. 5'8 Chandler, 5'10 Paddy, 71.5, 73. Leg reach, Paddy with the leg reach. Win by, we can see Chandler. He gets a lot of knockouts about 50% of the time. Well, he used to get a lot of knockouts. Average fight time about 9 minutes compared to 8 minutes. Paddy Pimblett, known as a grappler with 45% sub wins with 27% knockouts. So they're almost very much antithesis of each other here with a similar decision rate. And then let's go and look at significant strikes. Relatively balanced because Chandler's known as basically one shot, one kill, as opposed to Paddy, who puts on a lot of pressure, a lot of action. Grappling, takedown defense in Chandler's favor, but not a lot of people shoot on Paddy either. Takedown accuracy, not great for Paddy, but we do know what happens when he gets on the ground. Odds actually do have Paddy Pimblett as the favorite at minus 148, and we are sticking with that as well. Chandler has not had a lot of just those big punches that drop his opponent's knocking out. He had a slight moment against Charles Oliveira, but the Iron Michael Chandler powered hasn't really shown up in the last few years. He's still explosive, but he's not as freakishly explosive like we saw in his debut against Dan Hooker. That first round against Charles Oliveira the first time. I don't think he's going to land that front kick on Tony Ferguson like we saw as well. He's just not quite the same freak athlete as when he first debuted and even before that. And I think Paddy Pimblett is on the rise. He has the height advantage, the length advantage. I think he's going to land shots almost at will. I think people are going to be surprised by Paddy's stand-up in this fight. Chandler's a good offensive wrestler, but he's not known as a defensive grappler. Dustin Poirier choked him out. Charles Oliveira's TKO'd him, so on and so forth. I think he can. There's a lot of opportunities for Paddy there. So we're going to take Paddy Pimblett money line minus 148. So far, I know not too. So those are close enough odds where I don't feel like it's in this case, picking the favorite. I'm going to get us go full chalk there. Then the title fight, main event, Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopes. Looking at the numbers, once again, Volkanovski, 5'6", the shorter guy against 5'11", Diego Lopes, 72.5 reach for Lopes, 71 for Volkanovski, who has said that that's not accurate, that it's a little bit shorter. Leg reach, 36 to 41. We see Volkanovski either goes to a decision or he KOs him. And we see 15-minute fight time with all those 5-round battles he's been in, especially the Max Holloway ones. Diego Lopes, 38% TKO, 46% sub, basically goes out there to finish. 8-minute average fight time. He is a marauder, chaos, push forward, throws bombs. If it gets to the ground, that's where the game initially started. We saw his fight against Brian Ortega. That just right out of the gate, that clean combination knocked out Brian Ortega, then woke him back up before and just brutalized him. Diego Lopes, basically a finishing machine. Significant strikes. Edge towards Volkanovski, 6 per minute. We've seen, especially in those Holloway fights, the amount of strikes he'd land, 56% significant strikes. Defense really good at 58. We know how good his hands in boxing can be. Can't let the Ilya Topuria knockouts cloud that too much. Ilya could do that to anybody. He only needs one clean shot, and he's so technically sound. And on top of that, Volkanovski, only 3 absorbed per minute. It is pretty good. The concern is the ones he has been hit with recently. Grappling, takedown defense. I don't think either one of these guys is necessarily going to shoot for a takedown or go for one. Maybe Volk does just to try and steal a round, but I don't think he wants to go to the ground with Lopes either. And if it does, well, we know how good Lopes is there. Fight line minus 122 for Volk, plus 102 now for Diego Lopes, or 120 if you look on DraftKings. I love Volkanovski, and I hate doing this, but I do think this is going to go the way of Diego Lopes. That is 25 minutes for Diego Lopes to either catch a sub, to catch the chin. I am worried, like, small, lower weight class fighters, after they hit, I think it's that 35-ish mark, they tend to take a dip downhill. Very rarely do they have a second wind, a resurgence, especially after the 2 knockout losses back to back. I know he's taken time off. He's done all the right things, but at the end of the day, it's really, there's a reason so few guys really do it at these lower weight classes. 26-4, he's still outstanding. He's still one of the top featherweights of all time. I just have a really hard time seeing him be able to bounce back and have that same. He hasn't been in the octagon for so long too, so not that there's ring rust, but there's just finding your footing in there, having cage awareness. I know he's had so many fights, so many rounds, so many minutes in there, but it's been a long time since he's been in there. He's been really active most of his career, and now he's coming off a layoff like this against someone like Diego Lopes, who's had 2 fights in the last year or so, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 fights. He's chaotic. He's lengthy. He has a lot of what Max Holloway has as far as like the build. Difference is he's not as technically sound as Max Holloway, nowhere near, but he does have more thump in his shots. So I'm going to take Diego Lopes to win this one. We're going to take the money line at plus 102 or plus 120, depending on which one you look at. You could take this as a will not go the distance. The odds on that one are about minus 200, give or take, I believe. So it's not too far off from like we saw with Bryce and Gene Silva. But I just feel like Diego Lopes is going to find a way to get it done. Volkanovski is awesome, but it's really hard to win a title a second time coming off 2 knockout losses at his age. He will always be remembered as a GOAT. I hope, almost part of me hopes I'm wrong, but we're going to pick Diego Lopes to win, and that's going to be the money line. These are our UFC 314 betting odds, predictions, and breakdown. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to walk away with gold in the main event, and what's your favorite fight on the rest of the card, because this is the best card of the year in my opinion. Top to bottom, there's really good fights. There's not a, what are we doing here? There's nothing like that. It's not like a good main event, then some just filler underneath. There's no fights where it just feels like they threw them on there. This feels like a very well-constructed card, an OG type of card, if you will. What we'd like to see more if they had fewer events. I think this is what we'd be able to see more often. And you know what? Hopefully 316, 317, some of these upcoming ones, we can have some real bangers like this. But let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win and what your favorite bets are for this fight. Now, I think it's going to be an absolute great one. Let us know down in the comments below. We appreciate y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next.